We see in this episode, Daenerys starts to realize people are drawn to Jon Snow. He is a natural-born leader. When he's just being humble and drinking, Tormund is saying, I've never seen a fighter like this one. He's the best there is. He kills all the White Walkers. I've seen him take down 40 men and not break a sweat. He's the most skilled person I know. And everyone's, chanting, like, for Jon Snow, for, like, the hero, for the king in the north, the commander, the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, all of his past titles that he never really wanted. He's one of the more humble beings. Daenerys knows that people are drawn to Jon Snow, and that if Jon Snow's true heritage is revealed, then, they're not going to want her on the Iron Throne, whether he bows to her, whether he takes a knee to her, or not. And two characters that do come to realize that is Tyrion and Varys. And how do Tyrion and Varys know that Jon is the heir to the Iron Throne? Well, Sansa broke her promise within about 30 minutes to Jon when Jon says, you have to swear on your life to never tell anyone. And she tells Tyrion, essentially, what if there was another? And rather than us getting Tyrion's reaction that Jon Snow is Aegon Targaryen and he is the rightful heir to the Iron Throne, we get another cutaway, which, again, was frustrating. I get it. Still would have liked to see the reaction, especially when this season, we're pushing an hour and a half on these episodes. What's another minute to get some good character reactions? I get it. It's a filmmaker's technique to let us imagine what would happen. I just would have liked to see it, especially with such few time left with these characters in the series' entirety. Regardless, they're talking, and Varys is kind of doubting Daenerys' leadership, and in a rare moment, Tyrion kind of abandons his logic, and he talks about how, no, she is a good queen. She knows how to lead, and rather than, just take the logical route of Daenerys as being a little stubborn and a little, more like her father, the Mad King, Rhaegar Targaryen, rather than doing that, Tyrion just says, no, I believe with my heart. And Varys is very much on the side of people are drawn to Jon Snow. He is a leader. He is the one we should put our chips behind. That was a very interesting conversation, and I like to see that. Like to see two smart people talking over just who should sit on the Iron Throne, because rather than fight it out, sometimes conversation is the best way to solve problems. And I just liked hearing both sides and seeing that it has now come to that Daenerys is the emotional choice for people that have backed her for so long, while Jon Snow is the logical choice for the fact that he is the rightful heir and for the fact that he is just a better leader than Daenerys. Daenerys rules with fire and with blood. Jon leads, I don't really know how he leads, just non-violently. He's a pretty peaceful leader. He wants people to, respect him, and he doesn't invoke fear. Daenerys kills people who doesn't bend the knee. She killed Sam's father and his brother because they didn't bend the knee. She's a bit of a hothead when it comes to leadership. We get to King's Landing. The Targaryen ships arrive in a very cool scene. I just love seeing all the ships arrive with the flags up at full mast and all that. And then Daenerys is flying on her dragon. I believe that's Drogon, because Viserion, it was the dragon that was turned into the Night King's dragon, and Rhaegar, I always mix up the names, whether it's Rhaegal or Rhaegar, whatever. Her other dragon was the wounded one, so I'm pretty sure she's riding Drogon, and Jon says he's not going to ride Rhaegal because Rhaegal was wounded in the battle, which he was. He was stabbed a ton by the White Walkers and all that. Regardless, it kind of makes sense why he didn't ride it, because who but Euron Greyjoy and the fleet, and they have these giant crossbows, and they just start unloading, and they take down Rhaegal. Rhaegal's done. Rhaegal is dead. They kill another dragon. That's two of Daenerys' three dragons completely dead. She's got one left, in just a matter of seconds. A lot of people had a problem with this, saying it was too easy for them to take down the dragon. This was a dragon that was already wounded, and they shot about, let me think, probably 5, 6, 7 spears into his stomach. So yeah, I wasn't at all surprised that this dragon was taken down. And I thought it was a very oh shit moment, because rather than marching on King's Landing and having a pretty even fight, even maybe giving the edge to Winterfell because of the two dragons, you kind of realize, oh no, it's pretty even playing field, or even more leaning towards Cersei because of her fresh army. In that battle, they also shoot some crossbows at the ships. The ships get destroyed. Tyrion hits the woe when he jumps into the water. He didn't do it on purpose, but if you go back and watch that clip, it's pretty apparent that he hits the woe. I don't think it was on purpose, but it was pretty cool. They all swim to shore, but one of them gets captured, and that's Missandei. Missandei is Grey Worm's love interest, the leader of the Unsullied, obviously. She gets captured by Cersei, and basically it ends with Daenerys and her troops, the Unsullied, a broken Unsullied, not all of them are there. Daenerys, Tyrion, and Grey Worm, obviously. And we have them approaching the gate with Cersei at the top, as well as the mountain and Missandei chained up and all that. And one of Cersei's people comes out to confront Tyrion. They talk it over. Tyrion stands there, says, you don't have to do this. Your people don't like you and all that. Just hand over the throne. And all the archers take their stance. They load up their arrow. And for a second, I thought Tyrion was a goner. I was actually like, oh my God, one of the top characters in the show, I think, is about to die. I thought they were about to unload on him to send a message. They don't, but one character does die, and that's Missandei. And a very sad moment that pretty much shocked me. Even though she's not a huge character, she has that emotional influence over Grey Worm, and we will see how that plays out. She says to her, she says not any last words, but if there were any last words, now would be the time for them. And Missandei says, Jacaerys, and it makes you think a dragon's about to come. Maybe Rhaegal didn't actually die and crash into the water. Maybe he's still alive and he's going to come in just a little bit. But no, nothing happens. No Lannister troops had fire breathed upon them. The Mountain takes out his sword and just chops her head clean off, and her lifeless and headless body falls to the floor 50 feet below. She is dead. Grey Worm turns away as it happens. He can't watch. And yeah, Grey Worm is going to be a mad bastard come next week. And it does make sense as to why he didn't die last week. I thought Grey Worm was the only guaranteed death last week because he laid out his future with Missandei, and it made me think, oh man, like if you lay out your future before a huge battle, you're a goner. You're asking to die just to have that more emotional weight that you never got to live out your dream. And he did live, and I thought that was kind of interesting. Now it makes sense as to why he did live, because you can't have that Missandei death moment have the emotional weight that it had without having Grey Worm's reaction. So I did appreciate that he was alive for that. The episode basically ends there, and they're going to attack King's Landing. There's going to be a war next week, and then I think that in the final episode, we're going to just kind of decide who sits on the Iron Throne, whether it's Daenerys, whether it's Jon Snow, whether it's them married, or whether it's the theory that I would love to see happen, because I'm so sick of the politics. Even though I love them, I love the politics. I'm so sick of the stubbornness, and I hate that Daenerys is so obsessed with the throne that she wants Jon Snow. She wanted him to conceal his true identity to his siblings, to his adopted family, to people he has known for his entire life, much longer than he's known Daenerys. She wanted him to conceal his true heritage strictly because she wanted the Iron Throne that bad. That is a sign of a bad ruler, and that's why I think if Daenerys and Jon Snow both die, that makes Tyrion Lannister the heir to the Iron Throne, and I would love to see this show end with Tyrion sitting on the Iron Throne with all the power in his hands. That would be amazing. What will we see happen next week? King's Landing is in danger. Daenerys did very much say, surrender the throne. That's what we demand. Cersei says the same and hand over your troops and all that. So both are in a bit of a stalemate. Daenerys is like, oh, well, if we don't, force King's Landing to give us the throne through violence, maybe the people will respect us more. And I'm just like, well, this is Game of Thrones, unfortunately. King's Landing is going to get destroyed, and that's what I think is going to happen next week. I think there's going to be an all-out war in King's Landing. Lannisters versus Starks, Winterfell versus King's Landing, all that stuff. It's going to be nuts. What is going to happen next week? It'll be interesting, because obviously Battle of Winterfell with the White Walkers was said to be the biggest battle of the season of the show's history. So it's kind of disappointing if they're telling us already that next week will not top the Battle of Winterfell. I would, like to hold out hope that it would, especially if it's a daytime battle so we can actually see this one. That would be very nice. Regardless, I'm very excited to see where this goes. I am fully invested as to who's going to end up on the Iron Throne. If it can't be the Night King, if the Long Night's not going to happen, I am excited to see how it plays out with our remaining characters. It's basically down to Cersei, Jon, or Daenerys, but it also could be Tyrion, depending on who dies and all that. Cersei, I don't see a world where she lives. I think the prophecy will come true. All 3 of her children did die. She claims that she has another on the way, but I don't unfortunately think that child is ever going to be birthed. I don't think it's ever going to see the light of day, because I think she is going to die before it can be born, which is very sad, but we've seen it before in a very gruesome fashion with the Red Wedding and all that. Hopefully it's not like that. Hopefully the child can still be born and maybe she dies as well. That does happen. I don't know, but Cersei, her days are numbered for sure. Her brother is going to kill her, whether that's Tyrion or Jaime. I feel like Jaime would make more sense. That's another thing I have to touch on. Jaime leaves in the middle of the night his bed with Brienne. Brienne puts on a bathrobe, goes outside, sees him mounting a horse. She says, like, well, where are you going? And he just talks about, like, everything that he would do for Cersei, how he would kill men, how he crippled a young boy, he pushed him out of a tower for Cersei and all that. And it gives you this illusion that, does he miss Cersei? Was Brienne of Tarth that bad that he missed Cersei? I don't think that's the case. I think that he is just being very sly and eluding anyone, not telling anyone the truth, and I think that he is going to be the one that kills Cersei. Tyrion got to kill Tywin Lannister, got to kill his father. I think that was enough for him. I think it makes sense for Jaime to be the one that takes down Cersei and fulfills the prophecy that her brother will kill her. Another thing that happened, we get a brief scene with Bronn of Blackwater. Bronn has a crossbow loaded up, ready to kill Jaime and Tyrion because, Cersei made him a bounty hunter, said, kill them and I will give you, I believe it was River Run. And Tyrion calls back to something he said to Bronn in an earlier season and says, what did I say would ever happen if you were given a price to kill me? And he says that you would double it. And Tyrion, I believe, offers him Highgarden. And Jaime says, what, are you mad? Like, we can't do that. And it's better than being dead. So, quick little scene with Bronn. Love that scene. Love that he basically just takes the better offer and just dips after that. Very much true to Bronn's character and all that. And yeah, the last time I had seen Bronn, actually, I've seen the Black Mirror episode Shut Up and Dance so much that I now recognize him more from that episode than I do from Game of Thrones. So it's kind of funny whenever I see him again on Game of Thrones. I'm like, oh, that's the guy from Black Mirror. When I first watched that episode of Black Mirror, I was saying, oh, that's Bronn from Game of Thrones. So fun little tidbit there. If you haven't seen that episode, it's one of the best, my favorite Black Mirror episode in existence, and Bronn is phenomenal in that as well. With that being said, that's basically the whole show recap. I really liked this episode. If I'm going to give it a rate, I'm going to give it a solid I'll go with an 8.7 out of 10. No rookie scores. Because this episode kept me engaged the whole time. I thought the fact that they were selling